Is Disney's newest Lightning Lane service the easy-to-use solution that you've been hoping for? Sometimes it is, but often it's a force to be reckoned with, and not in a good way. So let's talk about the downsides of MultiPass today and figure out how you can still use this skip-the-line service to conquer your upcoming Disney World vacation. We've got you, don't worry. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. MultiPass entered into the Disney scene on July 24th, 2024, replacing the old Genie Plus service in exchange for a Lightning Lane service that now allows you to pre-select a set number of Lightning Lane reservations before the start of your trip. Much like anytime Disney decides to switch things up on us, the shift over from Genie Plus to MultiPass came with plenty of mixed reviews. But in general, it seemed like a good switch for those who missed how FastPass Plus used to work back in ye old day, except, you're still gotta pay for the MultiPass add-on. However, the more we use this new service, the more little hitches we've stumbled upon along the way. But fear not, today we're gonna address the issues we found while using MultiPass head-on so that we can fix those concerns before they're passed down to you. Quick disclaimer, we are about to jump right into the thick of Lightning Lane strategy planning, but if you need a little refresher on the basics of how MultiPass works, or you just appreciate a detailed visual aid of this whole service to use before and during your trip, go ahead and scan the QR code you see on the screen right now, or head over to disneyfoodblog.com/multipass, and you can pick up our free guide to all things Lightning Lanes, Single Pass, and MultiPass in general. Okay, first major issue about Lightning Lanes. Some folks have less time to pre-select them. Guess what, future Disney World Hotel guests? You've got a major advantage to look forward to when you decide to use MultiPass. Disney World Hotel guests, as well as guests of other select resorts like the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Hotels, the Swan Reserve, and Shades of Green, will have the opportunity to choose 3 Lightning Lane MultiPass pre-selections and up to 2 Lightning Lane Single Pass selections. We'll talk more about those later on, starting 7 days before their check-in day at 7 a.m. Eastern, and you can choose them for every day of your trip. Neato! So what's the bad news? Well, if you're not staying at a Disney-owned hotel, or if you're an annual pass holder who's also not planning on staying at a Disney-owned hotel anytime soon, because you're local and don't really need to, then you'll only be able to make your Lightning Lane pre-selections 3 days in advance of your first park visit, meaning that anyone staying at one of the Disney hotels will have already been able to make their selections ahead of you. But let's not panic just yet, all right? Because that 4-day delay isn't actually the end of the world. When the DFB reporters got all scientific for us and decided to see what it was like pre-selecting Lightning Lanes with a hotel versus without one, the results were actually pretty shocking. What we wanted to find out was how the tier system selections looked after the first wave of Lightning Lanes went out. For those who are unfamiliar with the MultiPass pre-selection tiers, basically it means you can choose one option from Tier 1, which holds the rides that tend to project higher weights throughout the day, and 2 options, or all 3, from Tier 2, which has the B-level rides that are still fun but maybe don't get quite as busy during the day. Our concern was that the folks who had the 7-day advantage would take up all the best Tier 1 options right from the get-go, leaving everyone else with the scraps. And while, yes, those top-tier Lightning Lane return times were a bit more limited for our non-Disney hotel reporters, they were still available in some sort of capacity. Our reporters who could start booking Lightning Lanes 3 days out were still able to snag popular choices like Remy's Ratatouille Adventure in Epcot, or even the big one, Slinky Dog Dash in Hollywood Studios. So if you're afraid that all the Lightning Lane pre-selections are going to be gone just because you decided to stay at a more affordable off-property hotel, rest assured that Disney does send out another wave of Lightning Lanes to choose from, so you're not stuck with the bottom of the barrel options only. And here's more good-ish news for you to consider too. You can look at all the MultiPass pre-selections available once they're released before you decide to purchase MultiPass. So even if you get into the My Disney Experience app and you see that the Lightning Lanes currently available aren't suiting your fancy, you can just stick with the standard queues once you get to the parks and try to either get in line for those must-do attractions at the start of the day before the rest of the crowds shuffle in, or maybe even later on in the evening when the peak of the crowding finally starts to dwindle down. Next piece of bad news about Lightning Lane MultiPass. International guests may not be able to pre-book selections. So what about those who might not even have 3 days out to book those pre-selections? According to Disney, those in the US and Canada can plan their Lightning Lanes ahead of time with the My Disney Experience app. Unfortunately, this does mean that international guests can't purchase Lightning Lane passes or take advantage of the pre-planning until they arrive in the United States, even if the 7-day planning window began before that. Now, if international guests do arrive in the US in time to do their pre-booking, they absolutely still can take advantage of that. But that does mean travel traveling over to the States possibly a week before their vacation is supposed to begin, which might not be feasible. I wish I had a more solid solution available for you right now, but this is still an ever-evolving service, so there is a possibility that these restrictions could change in the future, and we'll let you know immediately if and when they do. But for now, the same type of advice that I noted in the previous point can still be applied here. International guests are still able to look at the Lightning Lane pre-selections once they are in the States to see if this service is still worth purchasing once they get there. And if it is, awesome, but if it isn't, then I'd highly recommend taking advantage of Disney's hotel benefits if you have them, including early theme park entry for all guests and extended evening hours for deluxe resort guests. It might also be more beneficial to plan those overseas trips during a time when the US experiences their slower travel season, so you have less crowding to worry about. This includes back to school season, which happens mid-August into September, the tail end of January, and that sweet spot between spring break and summer vacation at the end of April and throughout the beginning of May. Okay, now here's some devastating news for all my Disney character interaction fans out there. Meet and greets, as well as the VIP viewing area for Magic Kingdom's Festival of Fantasy Parade, are not currently included with the Lightning Lane Multipass, which is a big switch up from the old Genie Plus system. And that means you're going to have to find a plan B when it comes to both of these Disney experiences. So how, first of all, can you cut down on your meet and greet waits when Lightning Lanes are leaving you high and dry? Well, you can still technically pay for meet and greet minus the waits when you book those character dining experiences. During these meals, your bestest Disney pals generally travel from table to table, stopping to interact with each group for a hug and a photo, an autograph, and some light chit-chat. That way, your group gets guaranteed quality time with fan-favorite characters in air-conditioned comfort, rather than standing in endless autograph and picture lines, all while simultaneously enjoying waffles and pasta and carved meats, or in some cases, adult beverages. It's a win for both the kids and the grown-ups as well. But convenience comes at a price, and character meal prices are nothing to sneeze at. Expect to pay $61 to $84 per adult for a character meal during lunch or dinner, or for a slightly cheaper option, select character meals might also have breakfast offerings too, which drop down to $47 to $69 per adult. Most expensive breakfast you've ever had. Now, for a much cheaper option for you, you can always choose to rope drop character meet and greet locations instead, which is a free method for you. Even the shorter character meet and greet lines can seemingly inch along at a snail's pace simply because each character wants to create a genuine, memorable experience with each family, so getting in line at the start of the day when everyone else is making a beeline for the rides can help ensure shorter waits with just as meaningful interactions. Just keep in mind that while some character meet and greets occur continuously through the day, others work around very set time frames. If there's a character you want to meet, make sure to pull up the My Disney Experience app in the morning and get an idea for when and where and how long they're going to be out and about that day. Generally speaking, character meet and greets often close a few hours before the parks do, and the lines for the characters tend to close maybe an hour before that. So if you wait too long, you could miss out, and that would be no bueno. Okay, now let's move on to parade talk. If you can't get VIP viewing for Festival of Fantasy, then where are you supposed to station yourself for the best views instead? First of all, if you want to make sure you and your kids have a clear view of the parade, it's best to stake out your spot along the parade route about 15 to 20 minutes before the festivities begin. The Festival of Fantasy Parade starts back in Frontierland, wraps through Liberty Square, and works its way down Main Street, USA for its final hurrah. While many folks love watching the parade from the sidewalks of Main Street, which makes sense since you've got that gorgeous view of Cinderella Castle in the background, we like catching the very beginning of the show by finding a spot nearish to Tiana's Bayou Adventure where the crowds don't seem to be as people-y and you can watch the show right when it begins. That way you can get back to riding and snacking sooner than the folks who might still be lingering over in the Main Street area. Also, if there are 2 parade shows going on the day of your visit, aim to watch the second one instead of the first. While it's not a foolproof plan by any means, crowds typically choose the first parade of the day rather than the second when they're trying to squeeze in more rides. So you might find a little more relief from the masses by choosing to watch Festival of Fantasy later on in the afternoon instead of earlier. Now, what about if it glitches? Vanellope von Schweetz might make glitching look cute, but Multipass does not. During these past few weeks of getting acquainted with the new Lightning Lane system, we've run into a few different quirks that we definitely could have lived without. Like, for instance, one of our reporters had already chosen her 3 selections for Magic Kingdom, Tiana's Bayou Adventure from Tier 1, of course, Haunted Mansion, and Pirates of the Caribbean from Tier 2. But when she went to confirm these selections, suddenly Tiana's was no longer available, even though she was able to select it originally. When she went back to make another selection instead, the app went ahead and deselected all of her other selections, which was a headache and a half. Thankfully, she was still able to get Pirates and Haunted Mansion back, as well as a top-tier option for Peter Pan's Flight instead. Sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches. We've also experienced some glitches on the home screen of the My Disney Experience app. Sometimes our selections would seemingly disappear from the screen, even though we hadn't used them yet. Additionally, we've also had the app tell us that we could check for another available experience now, even though we were definitely not eligible to book any more experiences, because we were already holding on to our maximum of 3 multi-pass rides. Whoops. Okay, now here's a weird one for you. One time, one of our reporters had a selection for Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios for 7:40 p.m. However, at 12:30 p.m., we received a multiple experiences pass for Rock and Roller Coaster, stating that the ride was temporarily unavailable during our return time. We were like, is Disney predicting the future here? Are they not planning on having Rock and Roller Coaster back up and running in the next 7 hours? Even with the multiple experiences pass in hand, we still weren't able to use that pass until the beginning of our return window for Rock and Roller Coaster anyway. Glitches and technology seem to go together like termites and wood. You don't want them to be together, but they just can't seem to stay away from each other. That's why it's so important to take screenshots of what you're doing on the My Disney Experience app, just in case anything happens that leaves you scratching your head. Because if you have 3 Lightning Lane selections, for instance, and then suddenly the system glitches and your selections get pulled into the void, you're gonna need to head over to Guest Relations to talk to a cast member to help you sort things out. And it's gonna be a whole lot easier for said cast member to find a solution for you if you got the receipts handy in your smartphone's photo album. Another good thing to remember when the app seems to be running amok, be patient with it. Sometimes these glitches are just a temporary thing that'll work themselves out if you give Disney a second or two to fix the kinks. After all, Disney hates glitches as much as you do because they know their guests rely on the MDE app to create a smooth sailing visit. So sometimes the fix is as easy as going the IT crowd route. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Now, guess what? You might still come across conflicting reservations. One of our biggest grievances with the old Disney Genie Plus, may it rest in peace, was the fact that it just did not vibe well with advanced dining reservations. Like, sure, you could choose your return time for your table service restaurant, but you really couldn't choose your return time for a Genie Plus Lightning Lane. You just get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Or you try modifying it later on to see if any better Lightning Lane return times popped up for you. But is MultiPass any better at working around your dining plans? Kind of? Here's where the hesitancy comes from. When making Lightning Lane MultiPass selections, we've noticed that it's still possible to make Lightning Lane reservations that interfere with your previously made plans, so you will need to watch out for that. The My Disney Experience app will show you your dining reservations for the day alongside your current Lightning Lane options, but whenever you select a day of Lightning Lane, where you'll automatically be assigned a Lightning Lane time, those times still conflict with your dining reservations sometimes. So good time for an example here. One of our DFB reporters was automatically given a Living with the Land Lightning Lane return time that conflicted with her lunch reservation at Spice Road Table in Epcot. And obviously that wasn't going to work. Now the good news is that after the app gives you your Lightning Lane return time, you'll still be able to see those return times and your dining reservations on the same screen. If something conflicts, you'll have a few minutes to change or modify your Lightning Lanes so that it doesn't interfere. Just be warned that Disney won't automatically work around your pre-scheduled plans for you, so this is something you're going to need to be on high alert for. Also, just as a quick reminder, unless you can help it, always choose your ADR over your Lightning Lane. While missing a Lightning Lane might not be fun, being a no-show for an advanced dining reservation, or failing to cancel your reservation at least 2 hours before your scheduled dining time is going to result in that $10 per person no-show fee, or perhaps an even greater penalty depending on the restaurant. Okay, who out there had mastered stacking Genie Plus Lightning Lanes? For those of you who didn't get the chance to play around with Lightning Lane stacking before it up and disappeared, here's the most basic way I can describe this past Lightning Lane hack without getting too technical. Basically, with Genie Plus, you could book another Lightning Lane either right after you used one of your previous selections or 2 hours after you made your last selection. This gave you the opportunity to really stack up your Lightning Lanes all day long, whether your return time for your last Lightning Lane chosen was still a ways out or not. Now, with the new MultiPass, you not only can choose 3 selections ahead of your trip, but you can also keep hold of 3 selections all day long. So you use a Lightning Lane, and then you can book a Lightning Lane. Wash, rinse, repeat. But you can't hold more than 3 Lightning Lanes at a time. Meanwhile, if you played your cards right with Genie Plus, you might have had the ability to stack and hold up to 4 to 5 Lightning Lanes at a time. But, that doesn't mean you can't use a whole lot of MultiPass Lightning Lanes in a single day each day. If you can secure pre-selected return times for lightning lanes that take place earlier on in the day, then you'll be able to start selecting more options sooner. For example, let's say I'm in Hollywood Studios and I pre-select lightning lanes for Tower of Terror at 9:30, Toy Story Mania at 11:30, and Slinky Dog Dash at 5. Just as soon as I scan into my 9:30 Tower of Terror option, I can book another lightning lane. And if that option is for, say, Alien Swirling Saucers at 10:30, then I can scan that one in next and still collect yet another lightning lane, even before I use my Toy Story Mania pre-selected one for 11:30. It's all about strategy and, of course, a little bit of luck. But all in all, I think this system tends to be a lot more user-friendly for first-time guests. And even frequent Disney flyers might find it to be somewhat of a relief to not have to keep tabs on how much time has passed so that they can book another lightning lane. Because now you just book a lightning lane after you use one. Easy as that. Speaking of booking lightning lanes, they can still book up. It's nice that you can at least guarantee 3 lightning lanes before your visit, but much like the old Genie Plus system, lightning lanes are still apt to book up completely while you're selecting them the day of. And they'll book up even faster during busier times of year. Now, like I mentioned in the last point, the earlier the return times you can snag for your pre-selections, the better. And not just because you'll be able to collect more lightning lanes sooner, but also because you'll have more of a selection to choose from toward the beginning of the day, rather than later on when rides start to sell out. But how does all this impact park hopping? Good question, me. Gee, thanks, me. Now, before MultiPass, the Genie Plus system featured a multi-park option that was priced the same as Magic Kingdom Daily, where you'd have to pay a bit more to be able to park hop and use Genie Plus in multiple parks on the same day. So a lot of folks assumed a similar situation would be at hand with the new MultiPass system, but that's actually not the case at all. With MultiPass, you only have to purchase the service for one park, your first park that you'll be using Lightning Lane in for that day. But you can use it in the rest of the parks as well, provided that you have valid park hopper admission. This means even if you visit Animal Kingdom first, where the price is, say, $18, and hop to Magic Kingdom later, where the price is $25 or something along those lines, you wouldn't have to pay the difference. And that feels like a bit of a Lightning Lane hack for sure, but watch out, because you won't be able to book lightning lanes between parks when making selections in advance. You can only choose one park for pre-selections. Then, if you want to book lightning lanes in multiple parks, it isn't until you actually redeem one of those pre-selections on the day of your park visit that you can choose another MultiPass experience somewhere else. So, put it bluntly, if I have my 3 pre-selected lightning lanes at Animal Kingdom for Dinosaur at 10, Kilimanjaro Safaris at 12, and Navi River Journey at 2, I can't snag a lightning lane for Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin in Magic Kingdom until after I use that 10 a.m. lightning lane for Dinosaur. And if you're thinking about purchasing lightning lane MultiPass for a cheaper park like Animal Kingdom and then hopping to a more expensive park like Magic to take advantage of not having to pay more, that can be a smart solution, but it's not always the best solution if you're wanting to spend more time in Magic Kingdom that day and ride more popular rides. When our reporters tested out MultiPass and park hopping for the first time, we were all shocked by how quickly some of the lightning lanes for popular rides at Magic Kingdom sold out. So if you're thinking about trying to get a discount by starting your day in a park with less expensive MultiPass, just keep in mind that you might be left with less popular rides by the time you finally get to switch over to park number 2. Another major thing that MultiPass and the defunct Genie Plus system have in common, not every Disney ride is eligible. Some rides, like the ever-fabulous Goat Inside Magic Kingdom, the People Mover, have no lightning lanes whatsoever, so you're just going to have to wait in a regular standby line for them no matter what. Then there are other rides that do have lightning lanes but are still not listed as a MultiPass option. These are those super popular rides. They're called single pass rides, where you're going to have to pay a separate price per ride per person to access those hot rides in each of the parks. Here's the current list of single pass options that you can book before your visit. At Hollywood Studios, Rise of the Resistance. Animal Kingdom has one at Flight of Passage. Epcot's got one for Cosmic Rewind, and Magic Kingdom there's a 2-for, 1 for Tron, Light Cycle Run, and 1 for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Single pass selections are just as easy to book as MultiPass, but the problem lies within the cost. When you double up on MultiPasses and single passes, you're looking at a mighty hefty extra fee. Quick hypothetical scenario for you. Let's say a family of 5 is going to Magic Kingdom and wants to purchase MultiPass as well as both single pass options that they're allowed for the day. MultiPass can range in price between $15 and $39 per person per day. So for the sake of this pretend scenario, let's say MultiPasses on this particular day are $25. Then on top of the MultiPasses, a single pass for Tron is going to be $20 per person per ride through. And a single pass for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is going to be about $11 per person, the cherry on top. So for just 1 day's worth of lightning lanes for this family of 5, you're looking at spending an extra $280 on top of what you're already paying for theme park tickets. And just emphasizing this once more, that's only 1 day's worth of lightning lane service. Fortunately, you have the freedom to pick and choose what park days you want to purchase lightning lanes for, if any. And just because you purchase a single pass lightning lane for a ride does not mean you have to purchase multi-passes too, and vice versa. Better yet, you can look at lightning lane prices ahead of time to help you budget out accordingly. Lightning lane pricing is listed out on the My Disney Experience app a few weeks in advance, so you don't have to be taken off guard by how much these services cost on the day of your visit, like you used to have to be with Genie Plus. Okay, again, multi-pass is still in its early stages of life, so glitches and hiccups and confusion bound to be a normal part of the adjustment process. But rest assured, our DFB team will be on the case, searching for more lightning lane tips and tricks and hacks of all sorts to make that adjustment period a whole lot less awkward and more efficient for you. Don't forget to pick up our free lightning lane guide over at disneyfoodblog.com/multipass for more advice and details to help transform you into a lightning lane pro before you go. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.